Hello, everyone. This is Shamvi from Designhill and your host for today. I hope you and your families are keeping well and safe, taking all the precautions, and taking care of your near and dear ones. Welcome again to yet another event by Designhill. And today we will be discussing social media marketing trends of 2022 and quick tips to boost your social media results. This event is brought to you by Designhill, world's leading creative marketplace that caters to the creative needs of businesses and individuals alike who can source high-quality designs from professional designers through its print-on-demand marketplace called Print Shop by Designhill. You can also buy you 50 plus unique products with thousands of artworks created by a world-class community of independent artists. So moving ahead, let me introduce you to our amazing set of panelists for today. We have a women's set of panelists here on board with us today. Let me start introducing Dorian. Dorian is a social media consultant, organic social media specialist, certified agile marketer, community manager, and keynote speaker. She has been in the trenches of social media for nearly about 10 years. Welcome, Dorian. Would you like to say a quick hi to our audience?
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad you're here. I see people from all over the world. I'm in Vermont, USA, which is on the East Coast. I'm so glad you're here with us.
Thank you so much, Dorian, for joining us today here. Next up on the panel, we have Kristen. With 20 years of social media marketing experience, Kristen is the owner and CMO of Say Anything Media, which develops marketing strategies that focus on social media, digital, and influencer marketing. Welcome on board, Kristen. Kristen, you are on mute. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Hold on. I didn't even know I was on mute. I think somebody put me there, which is probably appropriate. My name is Kristen Dokas. I am also in the United States, in the lovely state of North Carolina. I have been working in social media and digital marketing since about 2007. And I have an expertise in influencer marketing as well as strategy and event planning. And I'm excited to be here. And with all these lovely ladies.
Welcome. I'm very happy to have you on board here. Next up on the panel here, we have Lisa. Lisa is the business growth strategist and a leadership coach. Her mission is to help business owners and leaders develop a great approach to success. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited for the conversation and the opportunity to be on this panel with the fabulous ladies. I am also in the US in Vermont and really excited about what we're going to be sharing today. So thank you so much.
Welcome, Lisa. I'm very, very happy again to have you on board here. Next up on the panel, we have Milo. Milo is the founder of Simply Media and Advertising. They specializes in organic social media marketing and helps business owners with done-for-you social media management services from strategy to execution. Hi, Milo.
Hey guys, it's Mail. I'm so excited to be here. I'm also in the United States. I'm in Texas, and thank you for having me.
Very, very happy again to have you here. Next up and last on the panel here, we have Sarah. Sarah has a broad range of communications and public relations experience in the nonprofit and private sectors. She is currently the Chief Collaboration Officer and the owner of Bay Haven Consulting. She regularly represents social media and content planning workshops for new business owners and entrepreneurs. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, thanks for having me. And I too am in Vermont, although I'm about 4 miles closer to Canada than Lisa is. And I love talking about social media trends and news, and happy to be here.
Super amazing. I'm very, very excited for today's panel discussion here. Thank you so much, guys, for taking out time from your busy schedule and joining us today for this. It is absolutely an honor to have you all here. Great. So before we start the session, here's a big announcement, everyone. We are giving away certificates to all the attendees who will stick here till the end of the session. So don't forget to be there around for the session. Also, you can take the screenshot of this event, post it on your Twitter accounts, use hashtag Designhill events, Tag Designhill DH and all our speakers whose Twitter handles will be in the chat section in a while. One lucky winner will have a chance to win a print shop gift card worth $50. So let's start the session. My first question goes to actually everyone here on the panel, and anyone can pick this question. What social media marketing actually is and what it is not. There is a lot of confusion around in this, what it is and what it is not, and how it has evolved over the years since everyone has been into this business since a long time. Really want you guys to talk about how it has evolved over the years of your experience. Maybe Dorian, you can start with it.
Sure, absolutely. So what it is not is a way to just sell, right? Social media is an opportunity to have a two-way conversation between a client or a potential client and a brand. The old school media was TV shows, radio, where you sit at home and you listen, right? You get served information, advertisements in a very broad scale, right? So say the ad for green beans was only really targeting maybe the moms that were watching who are going to go shopping and cook. Well, social media, you can have a one-on-one conversation with thousands, millions of people. So what it is a two-way conversation. So you're not just giving them information, but you're also listening to get information back to really start that conversation. So that is what it is. And so what it's not is it's not just selling. Social media brings you lead, sales brings you sales. And I'm going to toss it to Kristen because Kristen, I know you've been in this even longer than I have. So Kristen, what do you think?
Absolutely, yeah.
I want to back up. Actually, I'm going to take it a different direction. I'm going to tell you what it's not. Okay. And there's been a trend, and I've had this conversation with some of the ladies here that I'm seeing is this, and I think, I hate saying it, but it's our newer marketers, right? Social media is not Instagram, or Instagram is not social media. So I'm seeing a prevalence of folks that are, putting themselves, and if Instagram is your niche, that's great, but it is learning how to combine all of these platforms and speak to the audience of which is on that platform. You're not going to talk to your Facebook audience the same way you talk to your LinkedIn audience, the same way you talk to your Twitter audience and your Instagram audience. So it is a holistic approach to reach folks where they are and bring them to you. So it's a pull, it's not a push, like Doreen was saying.
Mm-hmm. And I want to tag onto what you're saying, Kristen, about reaching people where they are, and what Doreen said about the sales piece too, right? Social media is coming into people's lives. We're now publishing in a way that gets into people's phones, onto their desktops, into their tablets, into their real lives, right? And if you're doing that, think about a salesperson. Would you want someone coming at you saying, do you want this product? How about this product? How about this product? And they're sitting there in front of you doing that, right? I think that's the way to think about sales and social media, is that it's not this hard, push for sales. There are now some tools that you can subtly sell, and you can certainly put some calls to action into captions, but I would say below the fold, right? That old advertising and journalism piece where the newspapers used to fold in half, right? And so that kind of content would be below the fold, right? Something that's a little softer, and you can be a little softer with product tags and just adding bits to that. The other trend that I see is that social media is really moving toward advocacy and equity and social justice. And that's working in the nonprofit sector, I work around gender and race equity issues. And it's great to see that the platforms themselves are recognizing that there are voices that have been silenced on the internet, and that they are really working diligently to raise those up as well. So I'll hand it off to Lisa.
Oh, thank you. I love what you just talked about, Sarah. It was awesome. Everyone. For me, what it's been and what I've been experiencing is that it's really relationship building. We're no longer talking at people. We're engaging. We're having conversations. We're sharing stories. We're inviting stories so that we can get a peek into what other people's needs are, but also just who we are as a person. I love the fact that we're moving away from just talking at people and being able to share and starting to truly create the impact that we're here to make. And I will sound what everyone else has said is it's not selling. It is definitely not selling. It's, to me, it's really relationship building and sharing a bit of your expertise in a way that's going to serve your community. Not everyone, but your community. So I'm going to hand it to Milu.
Absolutely right there, Lisa. Milu, would you want to add something to this?
Yeah, obviously everyone touched on some great points, and I think the biggest thing is, it's not selling, and a lot of people forget that social media marketing is top of funnel, right? We want that brand awareness. We want people to know you exist before, even being able to work with you. So yeah, a huge part, and something I also always say, Lisa, is like, we want to talk with our audience and not to our audience. And I think the biggest evolvement there is that, they've gotten the power now to kind of drive what we're going to push out, right? Because what do they want to see from us? What do they want to learn, rather than what do we want to push out, right? So yeah, overall, some great things were being said already.
So absolutely. So the one important takeaway for me from this question is that you have to address the audience. You have to address the community you're building on social media. According to that, your marketing strategies would go in place. I'm like correct on that part, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Great. So moving on to my next question here, maybe Christina, I would really love if you can answer this question. As a marketer, one wants to identify the value of each conversion through its social media campaign. Please give us tips on how can one evaluate the exact right behavior of its eligible prospects.
In conversion, in advertising?
Yeah, any value of each conversion, a person, a marketer, a businessman would look to identify the value of each conversion through social media campaigns they're running. So I want you to give us tips on how one can evaluate the right behavior of eligible prospects.
So if we're talking about advertising, like your social media ads, the beauty of it, and this is how I work with my clients, is the fact that it's not, the beauty of it is that we're not dealing with print, right? So back in the day, if you were putting the money into a print ad or a commercial ad, it was one and done. But, we can do A/B testing. We can, set up something where we go, okay, we're going to run this particular campaign. And if it's not converting after a couple of days, one day, whatever your metric is, you can jump in and change it. That using A/B testing, you can go, okay, this one did really well. This one didn't do too well. So we're going to put more attention onto this one. If you are going, because at the end of the day, it is still about KPIs. Yes, it's supposed to be so. Yes, it's social. Yes, it's not a big sell, but if it's still that KPIs. And if your things aren't converting, you need to figure out why. And just really, it's a lot of research and observation. Observation, I think, is a key thing, because if you're observing what your community responds to, and as I say, if you find something that works well, do it a lot. I mean, don't do the exact same thing, but alter it a little bit and tweak it, because if people are responding very well and very positively to one campaign or even a type of post, like whether it's, say, your audience responds really well to videos, well, then guess what? You need to be doing more reels and stories, etc., on your Facebook and Instagram. If they prefer things like polls that are interactive, you need to do more of that. So it's really paying close attention to the content that you're putting out and what your audience responds to. It doesn't matter if reels are working really, really well for the people down the street if they're not working for you. If they're not working for you, why waste your time?
Absolutely right there. Sarah, would you like to add something, some pointers?
Sure. I think stepping back on this question is to really evaluate what conversion means to you. Like I said, I work a lot in the nonprofit space. So conversion for us means we have new advocates, we may have new donors, we may have people sharing our posts and our content. And so what that looks like could be very different from business to business. So you really need to focus in on what that conversion means before you even start to look at what success is. And of course, determine what success is. But so when I look at what conversions mean, I look at what's relevant information. I look at the big picture. What are the patterns that I'm seeing in that content that's connecting with people? Like Kristen said, what is reaching people, what's working? So I look for the patterns and then deliver more of that, right? So I'm finding right now that storytelling and profiles are performing extremely well with the accounts that I manage. And so we are working to generate that. That's hard content to really to come up with, especially when some businesses, some nonprofits don't have a lot of content to tap. They may not be able to share those stories, but to really work so that maybe you have less, but it performs better. And so really tuning into what's working for you over the long term. This isn't a short game. This isn't, oh, we tried this for a week and it's not working. This is looking at a full quarter or a full 6 months to see what is the trend and to then build on that.
Absolutely right there. Dorian, again, coming down to the midpoint, it's all about community. And, knowing your community, knowing your audience, and then you throw in all your marketing strategies. Since you have been into this community management, I would really like to hear your viewpoints on this.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's I heard both Kristen and Sarah say is you really need to start with goals because everybody's goals are different, right? So if your goal is to sell ultimately, and that's your conversion point, you need to actually have people click a link. If your goal is to understand what your audience wants because you're producing a second product, for example, you're doing product research in your community, you need to do a lot of listening, right? You need to ask them questions, see what words they use. How do they like the product that they currently have? What are they looking for in upgrades? Would they buy a second product? So within the community, you can do a lot of listening and asking questions. But to me, none of that's going to happen unless you really listen, unless you look at likes on content, not like how many people liked my page, but how many people liked a post or loved a post or shared a post or commented on a post, had a conversation. The best posts, the ones that I love the most within my communities or on my pages and on LinkedIn are one where they comment, I comment, they comment. We're having a conversation. That to me is where the magic is going to happen. And that happens within communities, but on profiles. And when the brands are really in tune and are present so they can engage is when magic happens. And that's when conversions will happen because they know that a real human being is there on social media to actually listen. What we all really want is to be heard, right? So if you're a customer, potential customer, you just want somebody to listen to your pain points, to your wonderful, to your feedback, to your testimonials. They just want somebody to be there. And that's, I think, is really going to help you convert and keep, right? So if somebody's already a customer, to retain them as a customer.
Right, absolutely right there. Lisa, would you want to add down to Dorian and Christine and Sarah's pointers here?
Absolutely. And I agree with everything that they're saying. The metrics are incredibly important, the KPIs, but also those goals, like Doreen was really driving home. My big thing is pause and get clear on how will you know you're successful? That's a great way to start so that you can really measure, is this working? Is this not? We need to know what we're shooting for in order to, how are we going to show up? Which also leads into be authentic. We need to be authentic in who we are and the conversations that we're starting. And that actually is going to engage more, absolutely more behavior. But getting really clear on what it is, like how will I know that I'm successful? And then asking the question, what am I doing consistently that's working? What am I doing inconsistently that's working? And what am I doing consistently that's not working? So that you can step back and say, okay, the behavior that I'm receiving, the reactions and the engagement that I'm getting, it's not working for me. It is, and I need to double down on that.
Right there. Milo, I would really like to hear you also on this.
Yeah, I love all the points you guys make. Of course, listening is always so important, just like with the previous question, right? And having those conversations. And sometimes those conversations are tough. Like people can leave tough comments, right? Criticize your brand at times. But I think it's important to not walk away and have those conversations, right? With a current client, we had some cultural things going on where a lot of people would tap in on that. But we're having those hard conversations and getting their input on it and things like that. And on top of that, setting goals, like Doreen says, and not just overall goals, but even, every piece of content should have its own KPI, right? If you're doing something promotional, then we want people to click links. We want them to reach out, but we don't necessarily want them to like the post, right? Because it's promotional. We don't expect them to engage necessarily with a promotional post, but if it's driving traffic, then it is still reaching that goal. And so I think that's important to point out too, because a lot of people don't realize that every piece of content will have its own unique goal. And on top of that, I think it's very underestimated to ask your audience specific direct questions. Ask them what they like about your product. Ask them what they want to see more of, right? They will give direct feedback, even as simple as putting a poll up, on a story, or even a poll on LinkedIn. Ask them what they want to see more of, and you'll get real answers.
Right. Absolutely right there. So, all right. I hope everyone is enjoying this session. Let's take a break and quickly look at what Designhill is all about.
I've always been creative and always been an artist. As a young girl, I used to paint rocks and I used to sell them for $0.25 on the street. And I just fell in love with it. It just grew into a passion of mine. I started looking on the web and I came across Designhill, and they had a design contest to design a logo, and I entered it and I won. And I was like, oh, this is really great. I can pick and choose what type of logos or design projects I want to work on. And it allows me to be creative, keep my hands, with my tools and working. So it's kind of nice. It's really easy to use. You can scroll through the projects and there's sections that you could go by. It's really easy. There's a few clients who have come back to use the one-on-one projects. There's one client in particular, she owns a vintage shop, and I designed her logo, and she came back. She needed a design for a flyer, and she really liked the illustrations that I did for her, so she came back a couple of times with projects. I would recommend it, especially if you're a designer that's starting out and you want to learn from other designers, seasoned designers. It's a place to keep in the game and keep using your tools. It makes me feel great, and it kind of confirms that I should be doing this. And I love to see logos that I've designed out, and proud of that. And I think that the clients are so happy that their logo represents what they do and makes them look good. It's a collaboration. It's good for me, and it's definitely good for them.
All right, so that was all about Designhill, and we'll be taking up questions now. Next set of questions. Also, everyone, for the audience, please drop your questions in the questions tab on your right, so that they don't get missed in the chat section. So coming back to social media marketing trends, here's a question for all of you guys. Everyone knows that, I believe in this, that be social, don't just do social. So, share some strategies that you can allow brands and names to distribute messaging or gain visibility and continue to be active on social media. Maybe Lisa, you can take this up.
Great. I absolutely love that question. And for me, what seems to be working are my LinkedIn Lives. Actually, they're lives. They go live on several different platforms. So I'm able to invite other thought leaders, any type of leader on to share their message, to get in front of my crowd, to my audience, and I'm in front of theirs. I invite them to share the lives. We repurpose the lives. That has been a great way to do the social in a way that is interactive, to be the social. And then, whoops, sorry, something just popped up on my screen here from Designhill. So, but really being interactive and sharing, being of service first before asking for a sale, sharing your brilliance, inviting other people on the stage so that they can serve your audience as well. It's all about collaboration. I know Doreen and Mila just did a live yesterday on the collaboration piece. That's serving at a higher level and not setting ourselves out as a silo. That for me has been a great experience for myself, my clients, and a lot of the colleagues that I know.
Absolutely right there. Doreen, please add on.
Sure. Yeah. So as Lisa said, LinkedIn Live works for her. It works for me. The biggest thing about being social is actually showing up. So sharing behind the scenes pictures, not just saying I'm here, but then being there. So that means that when you post a picture, you're actually going to monitor if there's comments, right? And talking with people. So behind the scenes works really well on both Facebook, LinkedIn, of course, Instagram, and then thought leadership. If you're an expert in your field, and another great way to be social is to share lessons that you've learned, things that you're teaching, be giving of your content. Yes, do you want to gate it? That's not being social, right? You might want to gate a teeny tiny bit or, sell a course, but give freely of yourself and your expertise. That's being social. That's a way to really build that relationship with people and build trust, because in the end, if people are actually going to buy a service or product from you, they're going to do it because they trust you to deliver value. So that's really what I would say, the behind the scenes, and then building that trust by giving and creating content. And all 5 of us here, we're all content creators. We all are creating content on different platforms. And I think that's really a great way for all of us to show our thought leadership and really our expertise.
Absolutely right there. True. Sarah, being social and just don't do social.
Mhm.
So what about you? What strategies you want to share with our audience on, gaining visibility and continuing to be active on social media?
Sure. I really like Doreen's piece about showing the behind the scenes and being real people, right? We have businesses, we represent businesses. Businesses aren't a thing, right? That's posting. It's the people behind it. And I know we talk, it's really easy to look at what big brands are doing, who have marketing teams and agencies behind them. But really 80% or more of businesses worldwide, depends on what country you're in, 80% or more of businesses are small businesses. They are real people working day to day in their towns and cities with their real customers. And I think we need to think about, what does social mean? What does being social mean for you if you're your personal brand, or for your business or your nonprofit? So what is social? Is that being educational? Is that being entertaining? Is that being fun? What is that voice that you're going to put out onto social media, and what is relevant to your audiences? So some things that are relevant to Lisa, like she was saying, she does these LinkedIn Lives, and she talks about leadership, and Doreen has a LinkedIn Live too. She talks about strategy. So what is it that your audiences want, and how can you add value to their day? You don't have to post the memes. You don't have to do the dances and the lip syncing, right? There's a place for all of us to have a voice on social media, and you just have to decide what that is that serves your greater goal for why you're in business.
Absolutely right there. Milo, what about you?
Yeah, I absolutely love everything you guys said. And especially Sarah, like you said, giving value. I've had people ask me, well, I don't, or comment on, I don't want to give too much away. I believe there's no such thing as giving too much away. I try to give everything away that you can try and do it yourself, right? But in the end, you will find out how hard it still is. But I try to give value at all times through my content for free, right? And actually the opposite happens because people find trust in me. They find maybe quick wins by applying things I share, and then come back for wanting to work with me, right? So I think that is really key. And like you said, Sarah, that is also a huge thing. I don't want to dance. I don't want to point in videos. A lot of people have those misconceptions, and don't be afraid to experiment. And you can still show up on video without having to do all these things and make it align with your business. So yeah, I love this topic.
Absolutely right there. Christine, would you want to add down?
Absolutely. A big thing that I discuss with my clients as far as the giving away, and I've talked with folks, when it comes to content creation, is there is absolutely nothing in this world that you can come up with that someone else hasn't before, right? But what's the difference? You are the difference. So, all of us can write the same topic. And if you give us a topic, considering what we're doing right now, you're giving us each the same exact prompt question, and every single one of us has a different response, even if it's just a little bit different. But the big thing is, it's how we say it. So I'm a big believer when I work with my clients, because people there's a certain mindset that it's, we have to train them that, going back to the original prompt of, this is not push marketing, right? So what you need to do is you need to humanize your company. And by doing that, I put their people in the front and center, because I can buy a car anywhere. There are 100 places I can go buy a car, but why do I want to buy a car from you, Mr. Carb Seller dude? It's because you have humanized your dealership. And so that's my big thing when I work with my clients. Let's humanize it. Let's talk to Freddie back in finance. Let's talk to, Suzanne, who's over in service. And why are you doing this? I had one client that I did the whole thing. And I do have a client that is an auto dealership, but women are not very on the forefront in auto dealerships. And for Women's History Month, I went and gathered every single one of the females that are in that thing, and we did a video on what it's like to be a female in a traditionally male-dominated world. So it's humanizing your company.
Absolutely right there. True. So everything actually boils down to, again, community and the kind of target audiences you have, the kind of prospects you are with on your social media, and how you have to, whatever their requirement is, you have to build up content and stuff like that, other stuff for social media according to your community. So it's actually very, very correct. It's very deep. So coming down to my next question, social media managers often frizzle between targeting and retargeting the audience. But there is actually a major difference between the two. Could you help us understand the difference and how to approach these two aspects of social media marketing differently? Kristen, you can start with this.
So targeting is, who you're going after, right? And you are targeting that audience. Retargeting is that audience that you targeted, but you didn't, quote unquote, seal the deal. So it's that casual shopper. It's that person that comes into, and I'm using this as a literal, but like the person that comes into your shop and they window shop and they window shop and they never buy. So, or they never do anything more than just look. So it's going, and, all of us, it's that running joke of like, I've never gone and looked for that widget before, but I was talking to somebody and now all of a sudden that's all I'm hearing that's all I'm seeing is this widget that it's so bizarre. And so that is using other streams in that it's a little invasive, and there's part of it that I'm not a big fan of, both as a consumer and as a marketer, but we do what we got to do. So it's finding that person that's been walking by your shop 20 times and tweaking that experience to see what will actually pull them back into your shop and hopefully convert them into, whether it's a buyer or a follower, or, it's the whole Facebook is like, hey, Doreen likes ABC, we think you would like it too. So it's understanding the buyer consumers habits and who they're connected with, because it's that 6 degrees of separation, if you will.
Absolutely right there. Sarah, please add on.
Sure. Kristen explained it so well that I don't have much to add, but what I will say, the trends that we are seeing is that retargeting is going to be really interesting. What's going to happen with retargeting in this next year? We've seen Apple really shut down a lot of ads and a lot of retargeting with their privacy on all of their products. Facebook ads kind of blew up in a bad way when Apple allowed people to stop the tracking on their apps very quickly, very easily, right? So the question is, how is retargeting really going to work going forward? And Google is changing. We talk about cookies. That's how, for people who don't know what retargeted ads are, when you go to an e-commerce site, let's say I'm going to use LL Bean, right? I shop at LL Bean all the time. And afterward, if I have if I'm using different social media platforms on the same device that I visited LL Bean, I will start to see ads. I have been retargeted. What the LL Bean website has done is dropped a piece of code, a cookie, onto my device, and now the ads can be retargeted to where I go on the internet. So I may see them on other websites, I may see them on social media. So that's what retargeting is. And what's going to be really interesting is that Google is going to change their cookie policy. The cookies are crumbling in this next probably 18 months, I would say. And Google Analytics is also changing. So if you are a brand that's really looking at retargeting, also look at how things are going to change so that you don't dump a lot of money into one thing right now, knowing that things will be up in the air. Perhaps they may still work. We don't know. There's going to be a lot of unknowns in the coming months.
Absolutely right there. So I'll actually take up my next question for another set of panelists here. So everyone, everyone knows that influencer marketing is blooming. Can you give us tips to build a perfect social media influencer marketing strategy for all these social media campaigns to fly high? Doreen? Maybe you can share.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. So I think the most important thing to start with is define the ask. You can't go to an influencer without knowing what you want them to do. So be very clear about what you're asking them and say, I'm looking to work with you for 3 months or on one campaign, or, I need 2 videos. So defining the ask is the first thing. The next thing is setting a budget within your company, the brand, knowing what you're spending. That means, to post ads on the content that's getting delivered, right? So have a budget set for somebody to work with these influencers. So you have to pay for their hours. So setting a budget. The next one is make sure when you work with influencers, you execute contracts. You want to make sure that you protect yourself so that you get access to the content if that's what you want. So they don't just create it and post it on their channels, but you then also get the file sent to you and then you can use them. So make sure you have a contract, whichever way you do that. Then set a timeline. Make sure that you talk to them about delivery, right? And an example that I can use is I worked with a company who worked with influencers and their Christmas content didn't get delivered until January, which meant that we could use that 8 months later when we started the next campaign in September for the holidays. We couldn't use it this year. So make sure you set a timeline and you have your influencers stick with that. Again, put that in your contract. Then have a repurposing plan. So if you work with influencers who post on their own channels and are going to deliver content and talk about a product, make sure that if you do get that content sent to you, that you have a plan for that. So that means that, do you want vertical video? Do you want horizontal video? Again, that goes back to that ask. Make sure you have a plan to repurpose. And then lastly, have a way to measure ROI with those KPIs that we talked about. Make sure that you can track what they're doing. If they're actually selling or linking to a product, make sure it's a trackable link so that you can see how many coffee mugs were sold through that link. So make sure you have trackable. So then when you start your next campaign, you know what you have to do. And I would really love to toss this next to Kristen, because she is like huge with influencer marketing and she's done lots of campaigns. So I hope this kind of sets you up, Kristen. I know there's probably other things, but you go and take it.
Yeah.
Everything you said was spot on. And it is, I mean, those are just those, if you do nothing else, do those things. A couple of things that I would add, and this is a lot of it is just things I've learned from experience over the years. And a big one is you need to have a contingency plan. I have yet to work on a campaign, whether I was an influencer or whether I was managing an influencer campaign, where somebody did not deliver. So you need to have your A group, and then you need to have your like off to the side, like because you need to follow up. There is a lot of work that goes in. People just think they're going to throw out some dresses and all of a sudden they're going to have an influencer campaign program. And that's just not the way it is, because content creators and influence, it is out of control right now. I saw a statistic the other day that something like 80% of people think that they're an influencer / content creator. And so you need to know who you're dealing with. You need to understand their numbers. You need to understand that if they, just because they have 1 million followers, that doesn't mean anything. I would rather work with somebody that has 100,000 followers with a good 20% engagement rate than somebody that has 1 million followers with a 1% engagement rate. It's not the number of followers, it's the engagement that goes with it. Another big mistake that I see companies make is they don't use the content. So I specifically remember one particular campaign that I was on. I created this awesome material, and the company never did anything with it. They didn't retweet my tweets, they didn't share my videos, nothing. And I'm like, okay, I'll take your money, but what are you getting out of this? So, so those are really the big things. But definitely have a contingency plan that, if Lisa doesn't deliver, then Malu can jump in and just kind of, it's like an understudy when you do theater, right? You've got to have an understudy. So you have to expect the unexpected, because I guarantee you, especially with this current regime of influencers, you're going to need it, because they're not treating it like a profession.
Absolutely right there. Lisa, would you want to add down with Christine?
I would absolutely love to add, and everything that the two ladies just said, I'm totally spot on. And really what Doreen started with, which is goals, budget, and timeline, is going to be absolutely essential. I want to put a different lens on this as a business growth strategist. I find when you said perfection, the perfect one, I find a lot of my business clients get in, they stop when they're looking at perfection. So I'd ask you to look through a different lens as a business owner with a strategy of really getting clear on, progress over perfection, because perfection gets in the way of possible. So be looking at, what does progress look like? What is, again, back to, I think that one of the first things that I said, which is, how will you know that you're successful? And just going by that goals, budget, timeline, and be looking at it from how, what is going right, and continue to do more of that.
Right there. Sarah, would you want to add down to Christine, Lisa, and Doreen here?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that line, Lisa. Perfection gets in the way of what's possible. And when we're talking about influencers, again, I'm getting back to the small businesses and even the teeny tiny ones, maybe you and one other person, or you're a solopreneur, and you're just trying to make it in social media. What is an influencer? Or if you're a nonprofit, what is an influencer? In the nonprofit world, we call them ambassadors, right? that these are our advocates that are out there sharing our content, and they can be influencers. They can be unpaid influencers. You can bring together a group of advocates and brand evangelists that are willing to share your story and share your products because you're so awesome. And you just have to ask them. There are some, think of your most loyal people and ask them if they would help you share your message, help you promote an event, and because they believe in what you're doing. So I'd say think outside the box, especially if you're small, if you don't have a big budget, but you do have people who really enjoy your products. Ask them to tag you, ask them to share some of the things that you're doing, and you can slowly build up that influencer campaign as a small business with very little resources.
Absolutely right there. On point there, Sarah. Milo, please, your viewpoints are also needed here.
Yeah, the only thing I would elaborate on is a little bit what Kristen talked about, not only giving your deliverables, but even getting the insights from the influencer, right? What audience are they reaching, right? Not just engagement, but who is their audience? Their audience may not align with your product, your brand, their location. So this is really important, getting their insights. And more often than not, with some of the clients we manage, we've had people reach out that have a large following that want to represent the company, and going into their profile and really examining their profile, I can tell that the followers have been bought, for example. The engagement isn't real, and this is something that the clients cannot see, right? They would love to jump on right away, send them product and get exposure, but from a social media strategist viewpoint, we can tell, right, when something is legitimate and when it's not. So I think that's really crucial. Like Kristen said, just because someone has a large audience doesn't mean it's going to be a good fit. And going back into, setting a budget. These days, influencers don't just want to work for free product anymore, right? If they're creating content every day, putting time and effort into their page, you need to compensate them for their time, for creating content. And so coming up with a budget, and sometimes products exchange is okay, depending on the product. But I think, respect their time, and setting those clear expectations.
Right there, absolutely right there. So all right. I hope everyone is enjoying this session, because I am for sure. Before we move forward, I would like to give a quick shout out to Designhill, world's leading creative marketplace, for organizing this event. Stay tuned, and we will be right back to hear more from our panelists.
Clarematics is a full-service video agency based around video production. We created a brand that fit our identity at the time, but as we've evolved as a company, we found that original brand didn't quite fit our aspirations anymore. Finding a partner to rebrand your entire company takes a lot of time and effort. Finding Designhill was an incredible lifeline. Designhill offers a money-back guarantee. If we don't like any of the designs, we get all of our money back. The stuff that we ended up with were well beyond what we had been seeing on other creative services platforms. After creating a simple design brief by answering some questions created by Designhill, we posted, and within a few days, we had over 250 entries. Designhill's platform made it easy to communicate with all of the potential designers. Eventually, we picked a winner. In addition to a logo, our designer also created a letterhead, business cards, and banners for all of our social media platforms. With Designhill's help, we now have a brand that meets our aspirations. We're ready for the future and everything that it's here to bring.
All right, so we're back again, and I'm guessing I've lost Lisa here on the screen. So we'll wait for her to join in. In the meanwhile, I'll just continue with the session. So we have questions in the questions tab here. Doran, can you answer this question here? It's on your screen.
Which one? How often do you recommend people to post and promote their business?
No, it is, are hashtags still effective to increase engagement on social media?
Oh, okay. And particularly on Facebook and LinkedIn. So
Yeah.
Freddie asked that question. I'm going to let Malou answer the hashtag question about Instagram in just a minute, because she's really good with that. I'm going to talk about hashtags on Facebook and LinkedIn. LinkedIn is telling us to use 3, up to 3 in every post. If you have your creator mode turned on your profile, you can also pick 5 hashtags about your content that you plan to talk about. So for example, mine are content strategies, strategic marketing. So anything having to do with strategy are my 5 that I've picked for my profile. And then when I talk about a piece of content, I use up to 3 on LinkedIn. On Facebook, it's a little bit different. I use hashtag on Facebook, very targeted for some of the brands that I represent. For example, I have a local company that does home security. So I will, if I give a tip, I will put in home security tip as a hashtag, knowing full well that when I'm looking for that kind of content, I might do that on Facebook. So very sparingly. I also will use a location hashtag on Facebook. Again, very sparingly. Now, within a Facebook group, they work pretty well. If you have a very active group and you have topics, say, questions or quotes, you could use hashtags in the group for people to be able to filter through that content. So it's more of a bookmarking tool. But on Facebook, I would say use it sparingly. On LinkedIn, absolutely, every piece of content up to 3. And then Malou, I'll let you answer as far as Instagram.
Yeah, so Instagram, it has changed a bit, and there are a lot of different things that people are putting out, but they definitely still work on Instagram. You can still use up to 30 hashtags, and it really does help in visibility. I often share results between content we put out without hashtags and with hashtags. It's a great way to get traffic from people that don't follow you yet. And on top of that, Instagram is really transforming into a search engine. So hashtags are part of that. So using hashtags that are very specific and relevant to your content is crucial. So not being all over the place with your hashtag to try and get as many people to see your content, that doesn't really work, but you want to keep it very specific and relevant to your content. And like Doreen said, you have location hashtags, you have branded hashtags, different industry hashtags. There's so many different categories. So depending on your business, the strategy behind it, you can use different ones. So for example, for me, location is not a priority. So I wouldn't really use location hashtags, but for a local business owner that wants, local clients, for them, it would be very beneficial. And then I just want to mention that, using hashtags in your Instagram bio is something that I would stay away from unless you're using your own brand hashtag that you encourage people to use, because otherwise what it does, people can click on the hashtag and it will take them to either your competitor or, other people's posts. So that's something I would stay away from.
And if I can jump in, Social Insider, I haven't read it. I just found out about it a couple of days ago. Social Insider just released a report. They looked at 75 million Instagram posts, and they have some new data on hashtag engagement and what's working and what's not. So definitely check that out. We'll see if we can get it into the email afterward for people to see.
Thank you so much for answering this question. There's another question, everyone, on your screen. This is from Mario. With the increasing restrictive algorithms in social media, what has been the result of the use of content marketing? Christine, would you like to take up this question?
I am going to assume that what they're referring to is like blogging.
Yeah, it's on content marketing. Yeah,
just in content. So I think we're starting to see a little bit of what was old is new again. And I've long preached that content is king, but only if you own it. And the problem with relying solely on social media platforms is the fact, should one of them change, should one of them go away, is you've lost all of this content. So I'm a big proponent for housing your content originally on your own site. So let's say I write a blog post and then I want to slice it up into a bunch of different pieces and repurpose it on social media. That's great, because then ultimately what I'm doing is leading them back to my site or to my original blog post. Now, what happens, and so many people go, well, it'll never happen. Well, let's just take a second, as I always like to say, and say, well, let's talk about MySpace. MySpace was never going anywhere, and then all of a sudden, where's Tom now? Tom is probably, on some island somewhere. Anyways, I don't know. But the content marketing piece of it, original content is always, if you find a piece of content that you really enjoy, don't just share it, share your thoughts about it and then share it. Content marketing is absolutely, that's what we're all doing. And it's what we've all been doing for hundreds of years. It's just a new medium of which we're getting the message out. 200 years ago, it was the typewriter or a pen and quill, a quill and paper. And now it is digital, and most people are using it through social media and video.
Can I respond to that too?
Yes,
I think
please.
the other answer to that is really what I'm hearing Mario ask is organic social media dead? Is content dead, right? That's what I'm hearing when I hear Mario ask a question, and it's not dead. What you have to do for your audience, your specific brand, either you're a business owner or you're a social media professional, you have to figure out what works. And every platform has a lot of different features. So what Kristen was saying, try those different features on each platform, right? On Facebook, for example, you have Facebook groups, you have Facebook Live, you can do stories, you can do all these different pieces, and they work together. One of the things that we're told is we can't sell or we can't use a Facebook profile, right, to sell or for doing business. But if you're sharing something on your page, you can then reshare it on your profile. You can do a Facebook Live on your profile, interviewing another expert. Yes, you can. You can reach out to other professionals. You can have a conversation about an event you're going to, right? Or you're speaking at, because you're still that person, the human behind the brand, as Kristen was saying earlier. So use all the different features. We go to Instagram, you can do reels, you can do stories, you can do videos, you can do all these different things. Don't say Instagram's not working and you're only posting to the feed, right? So go absolutely test and experiment with all these different features. And then the one thing I want to tell you is that when a platform comes out with a new feature, go use it. So right now on Instagram, Reels, they're pushing Reels. Go use Reels. That gets the most traction right now. On LinkedIn, what's getting the most traction are those LinkedIn Lives and the newsletters, because those are new features that are rolling out to people with creator mode put on. So go use the features, because the algorithm favors those new features. So if that's your question, go on each platform, find out what's the latest update, what's the newest feature, and go use those and experiment.
Great. Milo, you want to add down something to this?
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is time. People, they want it quick, they want it now. They, like Doreen said, they're so quick to say this is not working, it's dead. It gives us a bad name, but oftentimes I say the thing that's missing from your strategy is time, because you don't have to switch up your entire strategy just because your content flopped, right? You just need to give it time for it to start working, because once you catch that momentum on your pages, that's when great things start to happen. But you need to give it time. And Doreen and I know we both do organic, and like I can tell you and assure you from case studies and things we do that it's pretty much very much working still.
Great. Sarah, anything you want to add down to all the other panelists here?
I mean, follow all of those tips. And know that when these new tools come out, that you don't have to do the thing that everybody else is doing, right? With Reels, we saw a lot of content move over from TikTok to Reels, right? On Instagram, because it was easy for creators to just repurpose their content. And if you are a company that isn't on TikTok or isn't really able to make that kind of entertaining video that would play on TikTok and you think your reels have to be the same way. It doesn't. All you have to do is turn your camera from this way to this way, and you can do the same content. Use that new tool that fits with your messaging, your voice, your strategies that you have in place, right? So evaluate the new tools, also use the new tools.
Thank you so much, everyone here. This brings us to the end of this wonderful session with our amazing set of panelists here. I'm bounded with time, so I'll have to end this panel here. This was indeed a value-packed session, and I hope everyone enjoyed this discussion. Once again, I would like to thank each one of you here for being the part of this event. All right, guys, this is not where it ends. We have a lot more events lined up. You can check out our events page, Designhill events page. You can find all the links in the chat section there. To stay updated with all these kind of events, you can also check out our LinkedIn page. You can see all the links in the chat section. To watch this session, a replay of this session, and all the other such wonderful sessions, you can check out our YouTube channel. We have videos on our YouTube channel, which you can see. On that note, I would like to say a bye to everyone who joined us here today. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.